I think it's a great idea to have what I call a transitional occupation. Many of us, as we age, we can no longer do the things we used to do. And if you have a job that's manually intensive, that requires a lot of physical ability, certainly when you were younger, it's great to do it. Probably felt like a good workout. But at some point, our body will start to turn on us, so to speak, and we'll start to feel those aches and pains that come along with aging. Now, if you've made your income, uh, establish your way of life through a certain type of occupation, how are you going to maintain that when you get into the later years? Even sometimes in our 40s, as early as late 30s, we can detect that we can't do what we used to do. Imagine approaching your 50s and now you have to go out and do manual labor every day. That's just an introduction to this topic of a transitional occupation. I stopped by a barbershop, uh, talked with the owner, one of my old friends, and he was complaining that now he's in his mid 50s, that sciatica is really bothering him, especially when he has to stand up on that concrete floor all day and cut people's hair. But he says in the morning times it takes him sometimes 30 minutes just to get out of bed. He has to sit up on the side of the bed and do some stretching, and the sciatic nerve is just so, it bothers him so much, and flares up quite regularly to the point where sometimes he really struggles to make it to work. But he says, this is my only source of income. I have to get here or I don't eat. He says he's even fallen on the floor a few times and had to get assistance from his wife to get up. Now, if you are limited in the other occupations you can work, then certainly you do what you have to do. But at some point, this body is going to give out. It's going to be more difficult. So, anticipating that as we age, I would advise you, especially if you're younger, go ahead and anticipate also having an occupation that you can do much longer. I don't know how long Social Security will last, or if you have retirement, a healthy enough portfolio to retire and not work at a certain age. Of course, that would be ideal. But I'm reminded about my father, who was a drill sergeant in the military, who was infantry for 21 years, telling me, son, when I got out of the Army, I didn't know what to do as far as work. I was infantry. I was trained how to kill so many different ways, but I can't take that and put that on my job resume, when you're applying for jobs. So, saying all that to say, if you can, try to find an occupation or get another skill that you can use when you retire from a job that was labor intensive, to say, okay, now that I'm older, I can do this until later in life. I'm also an insurance agent and I can write applications as long as my mind is intact because it's not physically demanding. So go ahead and start thinking about that. To those of you who have, there's not many other options as far as physical labor, I feel for you. But with technology, I'm sure that you can invest in some other things that are not as physically demanding. But think about that, especially if you're younger. Go ahead and identify something that you can do when you can no longer physically do certain things as far as income. All right, and this is just food for thought. This has been your end of life coach, Charlie Howard, High Society Care, and I hope to talk to you soon. Take care.